Hello, welcome to Andertons TV. My name is Jack Duxbury. We've got Oz behind the camera, Tom Lewis on the couch.
Hello.
And all the way from Teenage Engineering we have...
Will.
Yeah, Will. Thank you so much for coming. I've stayed deliberately ignorant to what you have on there. I saw a picture of it.
Yeah.
So what have you brought in and what are we talking about today?
So here we've got a very exciting new product. It's called the OPXY. So it's our latest and greatest. It's the next product in the OP series. So obviously we've got the OP1 field, we've had the OPZ, and now we've got OPXY. So it's very exciting for us, and I think we should crack it open.
Can you
and have a
unsheath
look.
it for me?
Let's do that.
Let's do it. And the packaging's always good, isn't it? It's exciting. I was sold on the KO2 just with the box.
Yeah, it's quite nice.
Yeah, you said it separate.
I think we're quite detail oriented on the boxes, which
yes, and it's a rare. You're the first person we've had actually employed by Teenage Engineering, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So we horse's mouth right here.
Yeah.
Oh.
Little quick start guide, and there she is.
There's loads more on it than I thought.
Yeah.
Is it bigger than OP1 field or not? It's the same form factor.
Exactly the same dimensions.
Right.
Yeah.
So you crammed a lot more in. You take it away, Will. I'm too excited.
So, here it is. This is OPXY.
Yeah.
So the idea is OP1 field. It's a tape-based workflow. The way we think of it is that with OP1 you're recording audio, so you're capturing a feeling, a mood, a particular expression as you're playing it, right? Mm-hmm. Mistakes, things that you kind of mess up here and there that make the character kind of extra and wonderful, and it's a bit more singer-songwritery in that way. When you get into a room as a singer-songwriter, you want to capture that feeling and that expression, and that's what OP1's great at. Whereas OPXY is the German beat machine. It's precise, it's on point, it does exactly what you want, exactly when you want it. It's much more of a pragmatic synthesizer, and so that's why it's black and sleek and grayscale, and it gets to the point every time. And so that's kind of where we see it. OP1 sits as the perfect synthesizer and keyboard for people who want to capture an expression and a feeling, and OPXY is when you want to get up on stage and get a 4 on the floor, get your bass line going and rock the out.
Yeah, and so sequencing is at the heart of it.
Exactly. So you'll notice this sort of grayscale along the centre of the device, and that's your step sequencer. So it's there, it's immediate, it's just above the keyboard. You can just punch stuff in and get going. So.
Amazing. Well, I'm going to let you just take it away, mate, because as I understand, you wrote the documentation for this.
Yeah.
So I feel very fortunate. I'm going to keep my mouth shut. From now on, let's go. Take it away, Will. So we are plumbed in. Turn this bad boy on, please, Will. Let's get going. Nice, crisp. It's monochrome. Screen. We've got a black and white screen.
Yeah. So the whole device is monochrome, with the exception of the pop of red. So it is like a colour LCD screen, but we figure that the monochrome allows you to be a bit more German and pragmatic, and it matches the device, of course. I think aesthetically it's very beautiful. We went with this sort of partly geometric aesthetic to everything, and it's very pragmatic in a lot of ways. So you'll see that as we go through the device. But should we load up a track and give that a listen?
And I just want to hear what you like about it as well.
Yeah, so I think just from like a workflow perspective, for me, having come from initially the pocket operators and the OP1, I think step sequencing is such a fun and powerful workflow. And there's just something about the sequencer in the OPZ in particular that I absolutely loved. And when we were doing the OPXY, we took a lot of inspiration from the OPZ. All of the great stuff that we love about the OPZ and that our fans love about the OPZ, we took and we rammed it into the OPXY. And then we figured out ways of doing it even better. So there's things that were frustrations and, I wish it could do this. And we took, I would say, pretty much all of those and put them into the OPXY. So it really is like everything you need at your fingertips, and I think that's what makes it really special.
How long were you working on it for, do you think?
So it's been about a 2.5 year project overall, but I think the sort of sketches for it have been around for quite a while. We always think about what the next thing that we might want to make is and how can we improve on what we've already done. And I think with the OPXY, it was very much a thing of, we had all this feedback from OPZ. I wish it was this, I wish it was that. And we kind of we always read the feedback, always. Pretty much everything that you can imagine. All the good, all the bad, and there's a lot of both, and we love reading it. So, having that vocal customer is actually great for us because we learn a lot in the process. And I think with OPXY, we picked up a lot from OPZ that we could learn, that we knew that people would love. And so we put those things in knowing that people were going to love them. And so I think once people get it in their hands and play about with it and feel it, they'll really appreciate those things.
I'm sure they will.
So in effect, it's the kind of layout of it is that we'll start in the kind of top left with the 4 main modes. So here you've got instrument, auxiliary, arrange, and mix. So you get 8 instrument tracks, 8 auxiliary tracks, and then you can arrange them and you can mix them. So underneath the screen, you then get 4 module keys. So these are labeled M1 to M4. And those allow you to kind of modify what's in those various instruments, auxiliary tracks, the mixer, and then also, use them as copy paste and whatever else, sort of shortcut keys. Following that, you've got the track buttons. So these are your 8 tracks. And obviously when you're an instrument, they're the 8 instrument tracks, and when you're an auxiliary, they're the 8 auxiliary tracks. So you'll notice that if you switch between instrument and auxiliary, the light changes to red to kind of let you know if you're in white, it's an instrument, if you're in red, you're an auxiliary. So it's one of those workflow things that immediately you're like, wait, where am I? Oh, okay, it's red, it's an auxiliary track, got it, easy. Above those, you've obviously got the color-coded encoders. In this case, they're color-coded grayscale, which I think looks very stunning. It can be a little bit confusing when you're saying to someone, turn the gray knob, and then, they're turning the gray knob, but you're not sure which one. But, we go with dark gray, mid-gray, light gray, and white.
And you did let slip before we started filming about, have you mentioned how you came up with the greys?
Yeah, so in effect, it's a custom grayscale. So because we wanted to have these sort of in-between colours, there was nothing that quite did it for us in terms of a pre-made grayscale. So we actually worked very hard with our amazing CMF guy, colour material and finish designer, who made a custom grayscale for the device, and it looks really beautiful. It's sort of like a slightly blue grey. I mean, it's very slightly blue, but it's really stunning in person. And that's colour matched throughout the device, so both on the knobs, on the sequencer, as well as the screen and our website and everything. It's all perfectly colour matched, which is really stunning. It looks great.
I love it, those little attention to details. This is what we're in it for, mate.
Yeah, as you can imagine, it took a lot of work from our graphic designers and colour designers, but I think it's all worth it in the end. So then, obviously, you've got the step sequencer running across the middle. That's your sort of grayscale section, and it's intended to pop out, so that's why you get that grayscale. It stands out, and it makes you want to play the step sequencer. Underneath that, you've got the musical keyboard and then the transport controls. And you've got a few buttons in the top left, so that's projects, tempo, sample, com, which is like communication, so connecting it to your computer, sending out of the multi-out jack, which we'll touch on in a minute. And then the players, which is sort of like arpeggios, holding chords. We've also got this fun one called Maestro, which we'll maybe touch on a bit later.
What?
Yes. And then finally bar, and this is one of those big feature requests from OPZ. And, we've done sequences in the past, but I think this is one of those kind of amazing features that we've never touched, which allows you to expand your sequence. So rather than having one bar, like on OPZ, and changing the scale of that bar, you can now add up to 4 bars using the bar button, as well as changing your track scales, quantization settings, all the stuff that you need to control your sequence. So that's really nice. It's very immediate, and I think it makes sequencing a lot more fun, easy, performative, you name it. It's kind of your gateway into making more on the device. So bar's a really great addition, I think. Yeah, and then on the side you've got 4 jacks and a USB-C connector. So you've got the main out. It's like a really nice output. We use great DACs as always, but equally on the APXY, it always sounds fantastic. You plug it into a sound system and it sounds great.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other way of explaining it. You've got to hear it.
Yeah.
And then you've got the multi-out connector. So this is kind of a...
Sorry, I'm reaching you. Keep talking, mate.
Yeah, go for it. So it's kind of like a magical, a magical connector, because our electronic engineers put a huge amount of work to cram 4 features into one jack. So you can actually select what it does, rather than just being a fixed output, you select MIDI, CV gate, sync, or audio. So you can pick one of those four and then output it from the multi-out. So depending on what kind of musician you are, if you're a Eurorack user, or even like, you know, wanting to send out to various effects pedals, external effects, you name it, you can do that with the multi-out jack, which is really powerful. Then you've got a MIDI in and then audio in. So obviously for sampling, you can return effects, return audio, plug mics in, you name it. Really powerful. And then you've got the USB-C connector, which serves a sort of dual purpose. It's both for obviously charging and power, but then if you connect it into a computer, you can, you know, use it as an audio interface, as you've done with past devices from Teenage. But equally, it acts as a sort of host, like a computer. So if you plug an interface into it, it will receive audio from the interface and send audio to the interface, powering it, powering your mics, etc. It's class compliant, so depending on what interface you have, if it's got drivers or whatever, it could not work, but for the most part, if it's a class compliant interface, should be good to go.
That's massive. That's
pretty huge.
The first on the OP.
So actually, the OP1 field also does that,
right.
But not many people really realise that potential. So I think that's one of the kind of bigger features that we never really talk about. That's kind of quite exciting.
Yeah, so I could have a class-compliant audio interface with XLR inputs, and it would do
whatever
it.
you like. And
That's
it just
wild.
goes in and out. And then equally, because it's a MIDI host, you can plug a keyboard into it or a controller into it, power the keyboard or the controller, just as though you were plugging it into a laptop. So that's really powerful as well. And so those two sort of in combination effectively turn it into a very portable workstation. I mean, you almost don't need a computer anymore. And obviously that in combination with the amazing workflow and sound of the machine. But those sort of extra features take it the extra mile, where you can just turn up at a studio, plug into the system and just go. So that's pretty amazing.
And when you say the internal sounds, in terms of instrument, sorry, I know you're going to say it, but what are the inspiration behind the instruments in there?
Yeah, so I think, you know, each engine always has a very unique sound. So it comes with 8 built-in synth engines,
right.
And most likely we'll get more of those in future as we kind of figure out what we want to put in. As you know, we sort of sprinkle stuff in here and there.
Yeah.
When we've got an idea and when we've got the time to put it in, we'll just sit down and knock it out the park. But I think kind of the idea with this is that you've just got all the sounds that you want and need at your fingertips. You know, you've got sounds that kind of almost mimic the perfect Juno pads, and you've got, you know, the super fat basses and thick deep basses and everything in between. You know, it's all in there. And the really nice thing about the workflow on the OP1 field and the OPXY is that you can pick a track, get that sound dialed in perfectly just by ear, because we put all of the controls that you want and need for a sound right there. You don't have to mess around with 30 different parameters. And sometimes it's a bit experimental. You know, you might turn a knob and not know exactly what it's doing, and that's great as well. So that's the kind of idea behind the engines, but each one of them obviously has a very unique aesthetic, a very unique sound, and I think you'll hear that. But equally with the XY, what I love about it is that it's so broad in genres for what you can create. You know, I saw that a little bit with the OPZ, and equally with the OP1. Every musician that picks it up is going to do something different, right? But I think with the XY, it's got an even broader range than both of them, where, you know, I've had mine for quite a few months now, and the tracks that you produce, you can do everything from really soft pop right the way through to really heavy, hard electronica, you know, like proper IDM stuff. And that's a really nice range to have.
Well, let's get cooking, mate. Let's hear some of these sounds and see. I want to see more of this screen, because at the moment I just figured out it was black and white, and I genuinely haven't seen it. So I want to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's dig in.
Well, what genre of stuff do you want to hear? Because I can load up one of the factory projects. And,
yeah, do that. Yeah,
and
go where your heart is.
Yeah. So let's have a look.
Oh, that's cool. Just even having names, project names.
Yeah, it's quite awesome. And to go alongside that, so obviously you can name the projects on device, but one of the really great features about OPXY is the number of projects. So because the projects are all stored as note data, obviously on OP1 field you're recording audio, so it's audio data. That takes a lot of storage to put those in there. But these are all note data, so they take up a relatively small amount of space, which means that you can store not 5 or 10 or 50 or even 100, but thousands to tens of thousands of projects.
Come on.
Which is pretty sick. And obviously, depending on how many samples you put in there, so it's a sort of shared storage, 8 gigabytes. Depending on how many samples you put in there, that might reduce the number of projects. But even then, you know, with a load of samples, you're never going to get more than, you know, any less than 1,000, I'd say. And as a musician, I'd be hard pressed to produce 1,000 songs in my lifetime.
I ain't going to do it.
So the nice thing is you don't have to be so precious with stuff, you know.
That's cool.
Which is great. You know, you can just make a sketch. Okay, that was fun. Let me save it, and maybe I'll come back to it.
And speaks to that live element you're talking about, of just having like different sets.
Yeah.
That must be mind-blowing for people.
And to go along with that, you can kind of see it here, but it's grayed out. So this is a totally fresh unit, but you can see it here grayed out. There's a history button. So with each project, as you create it, you can save. And that save goes into the history folder for the project. So you can turn back time, so to speak, and listen to your project from 2 years ago and how it is now. And equally, you could duplicate it, turn it into a live set, mess it up in one set, and then just turn back time and fix it.
Love it.
So, super nice.
Yeah.
Super, super nice.
Cool.
But let's load a project up. So, I don't know how you're feeling. Entropy's pretty fun. That one changes every time.
Come on, let's
pretty wacky. So I'll load that up. It loads up pretty much instantaneously. So if I take us to the arrange view, you can see it's got lots going on. But I'll just hit play. And this one's a great example of the step components on the device. So as you may be familiar with OPZ, the step components allow you to sort of vary a sequence, right? So I'm not going to say much more. I'll hit play and then maybe we can delve into what it's doing.
I was just loving it. What the f***? Is this a factory one?
Yeah.
Yes! Oz is in the game now. This is a whole new world in terms of what is this? Explain what we're seeing on the screen, please. And this, this is blowing my mind a bit.
Yeah. So a little bit of what you heard there.
Yeah.
Effectively, got this amazing beta tester who wrote this track. And he's a master with step components and sound design as far as I'm concerned. But he sort of created this track to be different every time you play it. And so literally every time you hit play, it's a completely different song, which is pretty ridiculous. But as far as I understand it, because my knowledge of what he's doing is probably about this deep, but as far as I understand it, he's created a series of scenes. Each scene has a sort of different layout of, you know, sounds and whatever playing, and different step components on each track. And so as it passes through those scenes, it basically completely changes the track. And then obviously in combination with the step components, which are pretty much randomizing what you hear every time, it gets really wild.
Yeah. And this number in the middle, when it was changed in 1, 2, 3, are those the scenes?
Exactly. And you get 99 scenes. So per track you get 9 patterns. And each pattern, we call it preset per pattern. So in each pattern, it stores the preset and the notes. So that means that you can switch pattern, but equally switch sound on the next pattern. So as you compose a song, you could completely change the sound of the song throughout that song as you move through the patterns.
And live, that's incredibly powerful.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And if you're clever about it, you can do some really cool things. So we'll touch on the samplers a bit later, but there's some really cool ways of inserting vocals and audio clips into it. And then that in combination with the preset per pattern allows you to just kind of change those vocals as you go through the song. So if you're performing a track that's got vocals or needs clips from another synth or whatever, you can just load those up on each of the patterns and then have it cycle through the song.
Right, so 9 patterns, and so I cut you off a bit there. I'm going to be guilty of doing that all day.
Fine.
Sorry, mate. So 9 patterns, and then the scenes, how do they integrate with the
Yeah,
passes?
so the idea is that you get 99 scenes, right?
Yeah.
And what you put into each of those scenes is completely up to you. And by default, they're all sort of set to pattern 1, unmuted everything. But the scenes store both mutes and pattern. So you can select the pattern, mute other patterns, whatever you like, and they will sync to whatever the longest pattern is. So that will be the length of the scene. And then you can, of course, chain scenes by holding Shift and pressing Arrange. And then you get this sort of scene chainer, or song mode, as we call it, that then allows you to sort of go between them and, you know, arrange your song.
Every OPZ's owner's dreams.
Yes. Yeah.
Happening there.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And when you were explaining this, the bar thing, as a OPZ owner before, and kind of when I wanted to go above 16 steps, I used to find, as I remember correctly, you'd have to kind of imagine the resolution.
Exactly.
In between.
But should we have a look?
Yes, is that right?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Let's do a new project. So I'll just go into project.
I'm so spoiled, this is amazing.
Let's go into project and then create a new project. So it's as simple as that. Now we can go into the instrument mode. By default, it'll take us to track 1. And we put some kind of default sounds in there for you. So 2 drum kits in case you want to have a variety of different sounds, kind of vary things up a bit. Then you get a bass, some sort of pads and leads and whatever on the others. But if we start with a drum kit, this is kind of like a nice way of showing this stuff off. Right?
Yeah.
So obviously you can select a sound and then sequence it. Easy peasy. I'm going to turn the metronome off, so I'll just hit metronome, click the white encoder, and then that'll turn it off. Go back into instrument, and then, you know, got our 4 on the floor. Now we can add a hi-hat, put that onto the thirds. At this point you go, I want to add a snare drum, right? Mm-hmm. And this is one of those OPXY features that I think the OPZ was begging for, and we've heard all of your feedback, and OPXY has it. So you can hold down a sound, tap record, and then it will show you just the sequence for that sound. And this is one of those things that you go, wait, why don't all sequencers do this, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, obviously it should be able to do this. So then you just put it into the grid. The moment you let go, it takes you out.
That's such a good thing. I get it, yeah.
Yeah.
I get it. Because before I'd have to run, I could never be,
Yeah.
I'd have to kind of do a bit of guesswork.
Yeah, yeah.
Listen to it a few times.
But then you can just fly around. And that's the great thing, is that there's no sort of restrictions on how you sequence, what you sequence. It's all just there. So then let's get into the bar. So if I hold bar, hold Shift and press plus, it'll duplicate onto the next bar. So now, let go of both, and if I tap bar, you switch to bar 2, and you'll see that it's now copied that across. If you don't hold Shift and you just press plus, it'll just add another bar, empty. But here, I just want to duplicate it, so we'll keep it going and add some sort of variation. So then maybe we want to add like a hi-hat, and those in. And then hit play. Easy, right? So it's very fast, it's very immediate, the step sequencer's right there, and we've done a lot of things like that that allow you to just, again, fly around the device. So there we've got a little bit of a drum beat going, maybe we want to add a bass line. I'm going to come out and say this probably isn't going to be the best track you've ever heard because we're making it on the fly.
It beautifully,
but it's nice to see the workflow and understand.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure everyone at home's much more creative and inspired than this is going to be, but let's see what we can make. Maybe it's cool.
Thank you.
So here we've got a nice bass line, kind of bread and butter bass.
Sorry to be because I'm a fanboy.
Sure.
Before you were playing samples.
Yeah.
You said it's got 8 gig memory.
Yes.
Is it a separate sampler instrument you're using?
And then, so this is actually one of the really cool things that we've added to XY, which we've never done on any of sort of this range of products at least. You see it a bit with the KO2, I suppose, but you get more of a sample library with OPXY. So with the drum sampler, you pick a slot and you load a sample to it. So you get 24 sample slots rather than one sample chopped up 20 seconds into multiple divisions, and each sample can be a maximum of 20 seconds.
Oh, so you're not using that like online editor to put it all together. You can just
put it on.
Very cool.
Which is quite awesome.
And for anyone who's got an existing sample library, that's just an absolute win.
Easy peasy.
Cool.
And what's nice as well is that you just select a sample, hold Shift, press sample, and load it in.
Oh, and a file structure. Oh my god.
Easy peasy. And you can do all.
I just got excited about a file structure. Kill me.
And then, you know, like that's loading stuff on. If you want to sample straight into it, you just press sample and you go straight into sampling, which is pretty amazing. No need to faff about with menus and diving and whatever. It's just one button. So that's the drums. And then, yeah, onto the bass, bread and butter bass. Let's record it.
Yep.
So another way that you can record on the device is if you hold record, you can do what's called step recording. So a bit like, I'm trying to think what a good equivalent would be, like the SH-101, where you can record in a sequence and then it will play it back.
Yeah.
Kind of like that. So if I hold record, instant 80s.
Yeah.
Instant 80s banger. But yeah, so there we've got a sort of bass sequence recorded, and here's maybe a good opportunity to show the track scaling. So if I hit play, and I'm just going to change the track scale, and you'll hear how that affects the sequence that's already recorded. Now you can of course do this before recording, and then that will allow you to have a sort of lower resolution, or higher, I guess lower or higher, depends on how you think about it, but it will play back each step a bit slower. And so that in combination with the bars, 4 sort of pages as you would, allows you to sequence up to, I think it was 1024 bars worth. No, beats, not beats. Not bars, beats. 64 bars worth of recording, which is pretty amazing. You know, 64 bars worth of stuff is a lot. So, you know, let's hear it. So you kind of get the idea that as you increase that track scale, suddenly this one bar can turn into, you know, a whole, what was it, 16 bars? Yeah, which is pretty nuts. So then as you're composing chords, kind of more complex sequences, and you want more space to do that, the track scale unlocks that for you. And that in addition with the 4 pages or 4 bars, as we call it, allows you to kind of extend that even further. So you get a lot of flexibility.
As an OP1, I've got the old original OG one.
Yeah.
When we're in here, can I just see what's going on these?
Go for it.
Yeah, so it's in an envelope.
Envelope, sir.
What?
So you'll notice that you don't just get an amp envelope anymore, you get a filter envelope as well.
A whole new world.
Right? So if you just press the encoders, any
nice.
of them, you switch between the two.
That's cool.
Which is kind of amazing, and it opens up a world of sounds and
Yeah.
possibilities. You know, and especially when you're playing live, messing about with the filter and the envelope for the filter, especially when you're doing sort of acid basses, which maybe we can turn this from an 80s banger to an acid banger.
Come on, mate.
Let's do that. So if I just turn down the sustain on the filter, shorten the decay, shorten the release a bit. Feeling a bit like Donna Summer there. Turn up the envelope, bit more resonance.
Hey.
So as you can hear there, you've got a filter on 3.
On 3.
So that's also a big new addition.
And you can you shift 3 it and change what's on it, or is it?
Try it. Yes, you can.
Oh my god.
So you get 4 different filter types. Each one has a sort of unique sound to it. So depending on what you're creating, how you want it to sound, each filter will impart a slightly different sound to it. So you get 3 low pass, 1 high pass. There's actually also a high pass filter on the track level as well, which you can change inside the preset settings. So if you just need that low pass as well as a bit of high pass, you can add that in the preset settings. So check out the manual for that one. Yes. But it's a very useful addition, you know, when you're kind of mixing stuff and you just need that extra high pass. You know, things are clashing and yeah, it's perfect. And then you've got the LFO. So then you get 4 different LFOs, again, shift and M4, and that'll take you straight into the LFO.
And it has gyroscope stuff in it?
Oh yeah, not just does it have gyroscope stuff, but per track, the G-force accelerometer, as we call it, will modulate every track at once if you set it up. So you can set each track to have a different...
Oh, so the drums could stay still, but you could be wibbly wobbling your bass.
Or you could shorten the length of the drums at the same time as making the bass longer.
Have you ever seen this before? Oh, yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's quite sick. Yeah. So, for example, we could try that with what we've got already, actually. So if we set, the LFO to element, and then the source to G for G-force accelerometer, then we'll go to envelope, perhaps.
The screen and the animations are so different. And how nice is it to film like monochrome as well?
Going to set it up so that we're kind of set up for success here. And then, maybe we'll go like that. And then we'll mess up this last parameter, which is the sort of release of the drum sounds. So we'll go decay, as I guess we've called it. And then we will shorten that as we lift it up. I guess that's going to shorten it. We'll find out. It may make it longer.
Mate, you're so brave. It's unbelievable.
And then we'll go bass. Again, G-force accelerometer. Turn up the amount, and then we're going to go for filter, envelope, and that means that it will move the envelope, open it up as we lift the device up. So I'm just going to set that really tight. So it's quite good fun. And I had one of my colleagues who did this amazing live set at the launch, and he was just stood there holding a beer. He had his kind of pre-programmed incredible project, and he used it as another one of my colleagues dubbed a synth maraca. So he was just drinking his beer and at the same time shaking the XY and bringing layers in and out. It's just like da 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 whilst sipping beer. It was the sickest thing I've ever seen.
And it's fun.
Yeah.
That's where I've always connected with the TE stuff for that. Like underneath is fun, but then I loved how the LFOs, did it kind of know what you turned and then assigned itself, or?
Yeah, so there I was just rotating this guy until I select the parameter that I want. So what's nice is that it shows you obviously the color of the parameter, but equally you get this nice text that reminds you exactly of what that is.
Thanks, mate. So they're the 4 M buttons, you call them.
Yeah, so M buttons and then the encoders, exactly. Yeah. So that's super nice. And then, the flexibility in terms of sound design, as you can hear, you can go from like bread and butter, super nice 80s bass through to acid synth with one synth engine. And I've not even changed the engine itself.
I wouldn't mind having an ogle at some of these engines.
Yeah, let's do that.
If that's all right.
So let's start with Prism, and we can kind of play about with this on a bass sound, but it's great for quite a lot of various things. I mean, for leads, even kind of super source stuff, it's pretty awesome. You can make some nice reeds.
Are there any old ones that I'd remember as an OP1 user?
No, so they're completely fresh. Every single engine is fresh for OPXY, and they sound completely different to anything we've made. I mean, it's really
because on the field they were kind of evolutions of the OG ones.
Exactly.
Cool.
But this is like totally fresh.
Great. So Prism.
Yeah, let's hear it. So this is it without the filter on. No, it's with the filter on.
Right.
Insane.
And also so many things. I'm drawn to that screen, but I'm seeing things that excite me and I'm hearing things. So first thing I saw was sends.
Yes. Exactly. So what you will have noticed there was as I turned it from a bass to a lead synth or a plucky synth.
Effortlessly.
Sure, I'll take that. So then you can go into the filter page, and holding shift will take you to your sends. So you'll notice 4 sends.
Yeah.
The first 2 are sort of 2 auxiliary tracks, and we'll touch on those a bit later. But that's your auxiliary audio send, your tape send, and then the last 2 are the FX1 and FX2. So there I sent it to the delay and reverb that by default set on FX1 and 2. But you actually get 6 different effects that you can pick from, and a variety of parameters on each one. So you can get really crazy with the effects, and they actually feed into each other if you need them to. So FX1 into FX2 and then out if you want it to, which is quite.
That's an upgrade over the Z, big time.
Yeah, pretty huge. So you can get pretty wild and wacky, but there I just wanted to kind of add some nice extra sparkle to it. And there I wasn't even touching the filter, so it was off the whole time. And obviously the filter in combination with everything that you've just heard adds a lot of flexibility.
So the engine parameters and sends, and also you look like you were integrating some step components. So am I guessing there's step components?
It was actually punch and effects. So per track, not just you get a punch and effects track where you can control the whole device with punch and effects, but then per track, if you hold shift, you can add punch and effects. So if I press play,
that's my favourite thing about the OPZ. And then you can record those into the seat.
So if you're recording those will record to the punch and effects track, so you can go in and remove them if you don't like them later.
Killer.
Pretty awesome.
Keep going, mate.
So yeah, that's the Prism.
And that was Prism.
Engine. Yep. And now, I mean, maybe we should make a different thing. I'll bring it back to a bass sound.
We've got loads of tracks.
So let's bring that up, get our filter on. So now I'll pick another track. This is track 5. It's an engine called Dissolve, one of my personal favourites. I'm not entirely sure exactly what's going on here, but I like the mystery of it. So it's sort of like a noisy synth. The idea is that I think you're FMing noise with, I don't know, but it sounds cool.
Tom will tell us.
Yeah, he knows.
The noise guru.
So, I mean, just straight off the bat, it sounds good, right? Yeah. But let's move some parameters and hear it. Instant EDM.
Yeah.
Instant EDM track right there. But, you know, it's great for leads, it's great for pads, you know, so if I set this to polyphonic.
They keep inventing visuals for the synths that are alluring.
Yes. Yeah, and huge credit to the graphic designers. You know, they put a lot of
you can only use black to white, yeah? Right.
Yeah, exactly. You know, that's a pretty big limitation, and I think they came out with some really stunning aesthetics.
That's just there.
So maybe we want
huge difference. Come on, Will.
Right?
It sounds dope.
Let's see if we want to. So here's another nice thing. When you're sequencing chords, right, you want to just be able to put the chord into the sequencer. So you just hold it down and press the sequencer. That's it. That's all it takes. Nothing more complicated than that. So.
Having those two envelopes is massive.
It's huge. Yeah. I mean, 2 envelopes.
Game changer.
Easy, right? I mean, it's the sound design that you always want is to just be able to control a little bit of everything.
And
Not
I love
too
that they're
much,
overlapped as well, because so often, I've had to learn about the envelopes and matching them up.
And like syncing the timing is always a nightmare. So it's really nice to see it graphically. It's nice to have them a little bit offset sometimes as well, give you that extra flavour.
I've spotted when you're whacking the bar button, there's a shape function in there as well.
Yes, so the shape, this is actually what smooths automation. So you can parameter lock pretty much everything on the device. If it's a parameter, you can probably parameter lock it, which is pretty awesome. But then if you want to smooth between those, you just turn up the shape and it makes it smooth. So even when you're recording that parameter lock, by default, it's stepped.
And you think, oh, that's a bit jagged.
Yeah, it's a bit jagged. But then you just turn up the shape and it smooths it out like butter. And it's 1920 ppqn, which is a lot. It's like a ridiculous amount of resolution. So when you get that smoothing, it's butter smooth. It's not just smooth. It's really, really smooth.
Yeah.
So it always sounds great, you know.
What a great, yeah. So
yeah. Well, let's.
And we were in Dissolve, weren't we?
Yeah, exactly. So I might do like a. So then again, maybe we want to add that like nice gyroscope movement to it, get everything moving. So I'm going to go to the G. This time I'm going to turn it down because we want the opposite effect. We want to close the filter as we lift it up. And when we turn it the other way, you'll see what happens. So now we'll go to envelope. Press.
Mad! Mad! Absolutely mad! So fun!
So quite nuts. And things like that, you start to realise that it really is like, it's both a production workhouse, you know, workhorse rather, and it's also a performance machine. You know, it's like, you want to play it live. So as you're composing stuff, you just go, oh my God, I have to get on stage and play this thing.
All right, I'm going out on a limb here. So we've got, because you've very kindly showed me the G-Force thing. In terms of, with this new multi-output, is there, how about in the LFO, what can you sync to, like internally, or can you do? Yeah,
so obviously you get the sync and MIDI out. So with MIDI out, obviously you get sync over MIDI. So if your MIDI device, you know, you've got a drum machine and it takes MIDI, you can have notes and also sync. If you've got like an 808 drum machine, for example, or a drum machine from the 80s that uses Sync 24, there's even some modern stuff that uses it. But that's kind of like a funky standard that not many things support. So with Sync 24, which OPXY supports, you can get even your 808 locked down under control, which is pretty amazing. And then, you know, you could have your 808, you can also connect to a Euro rack, and you know, you get that full broad range of old to new.
I knew you'd have it in there.
So that's pretty wicked. And the send and return audio stuff is really nice. That's one of the things that I kind of learnt last minute about the device. And when I realised how to use it, I was like, oh my God, this opens a world of possibilities.
Do we want to plug something in?
Yeah, can do. Do you want to grab a pedal?
We're going to, intermission.
Mummy says you all like cat-o meat because it's made with only good things.
Well, look how firm it is.
Back in the room, and we have plugged in some pedals. Oz, thank you, mate. You plugged those in. He's just having a vape out there because we're in for the long haul, I feel, on this video.
For sure.
Well, where are we at?
So, we've got some pedals. We've got a return plugged in into our audio in. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go to COM. We're going to set our multi-out jack. So there you can see what it's set to. I'm going to use the light grey encoder and just turn that all the way to audio. And then I can plug in our lovely Teenage Engineering cable and that will send over to the pedals. So now we should have everything set up. We just need to route it. So we can pick a track and send it over. So let's go to the drums perhaps. If we go to M3 where we've got our filter, currently the filter's turned off, but if I hold down Shift, you see those sends. So I'm just going to turn it up on that audio send, and then we'll go to the auxiliary tracks. We'll touch on this maybe a little bit later in more detail, but here the auxiliary track 5 is our audio, external audio auxiliary track. And so we'll select that, and then you'll notice that the input is on the dark grey knob. We're going to choose the line in, and you just click it to turn it on.
Oh,
yeah. So let's start off with that turned off and hit play. Not bad.
And it speaks to, I'd say, the dynamic range in there that you haven't fiddled with anything to get those pedals working. Like normally I've got to get a reamp box and all that stuff. Yeah. That's just working.
Yeah, it just goes straight out. And the nice thing as well, so there I've only shown one track, but you can send all 8 of the instrument tracks as well as the auxiliary tracks in some cases through that audio output. So the possibilities are pretty endless.
Dope with the pedals. Yeah. Next to it, the tape track.
Yeah, let's do that.
Is that right?
So auxiliary, you get 8 auxiliary tracks. Again, recall your LED's red when you're in auxiliary. So these go as follows. You've got the brain, we'll touch on that a bit later. You've got punch-in effects, then MIDI, so external MIDI, you get 1 external MIDI track, but you can actually turn any of the instrument tracks into an external MIDI track. So that means you don't get 1 external MIDI track for controlling all your CCs and whatever external gear. You get 9 different CC controllable tracks, which is pretty awesome. And that's in addition to the fact that every track can be set to a different MIDI channel. So actually, in theory, you could sequence 16 channels just by setting the tracks to each channel. Then you've got a CV track, so that's for controlling, analog synths, Eurorack, analog stuff. Mm-hmm. That's what you need. Then external audio, which we've touched on a little bit. So here you actually get some really nice extra controls. You can route into it and out of it. So this is the routing out. You can turn stuff up, turn it down, and get crazy. And then you've also got a filter, so we can play about with that with the drums a bit later. That's really nice. And then some modulation. So pretty sweet. So
I can filter stuff coming in.
Oh yeah.
That's cool.
Everything you need, as I said. And you can also send to the built-in effects and tape and whatever else. So what we'll do is we'll turn up the return into the tape, and then let's go to the tape. So here's the tape track. You'll see that you get this sort of waveform, and that's a buffer of the audio running through the device. And you can route exactly what you want going into it. So if you press M2, you get to the instrument track routing page. So you can just turn everything down if you wanted to. So that's what I'm going to do, because we're going to use the return into the tape and mess up our drums. How does that sound?
Wild. I mean, you're way ahead of me, mate.
I'm speeding around, but
it's
hopefully
amazing. Yeah, I love that visual representation of the buffer.
Yeah.
Even there, that gives me hope that I'll get it.
It's really nice. Thanks. And you'll see in a minute how detailed you can get with that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to those drums. So I'm going to route them through that external out. And then I want to turn this into a bit more of a kind of, I don't know, hard bass track. So we're going to create a new pattern here, and we're just going to go with a kick drum. And then we're going to set that to 1 bar. So yeah, then we've got a kind of pattern going. It's pretty basic, but
Right, what are you doing there?
So
that sounds so hard.
We turn those off. So yeah, there you've got the kick drum. It's going through the external effects. Yeah. In this case, these lovely 3 pedals. Mm-hmm. It's returning back into the device through the audio in, routing it into the external audio track, sending that and only that into the tape so that it buffers just the kick drum with the effect on it. And then that tape allows you to take that buffer and select only a section of it and loop it. So here I can actually play it even with it stopped because it's still buffered.
And they're different like ways to chop up that buffer.
Exactly. So then you can apply that even with live audio playing through, of course.
What?
So if you connect a guitar and play that in, you can get kind of granular and funky, and obviously that in combination with some delays and whatever else, you can get some really crazy sounds.
And these cymbals, are they relating to the buffers or?
Yeah, so these here, so obviously the musical keyboard is all black. So you don't have white keys and black keys, they're all black keys. So actually we refer to these, what would conventionally be called white keys, as naturals, and then the black keys as accidentals. So that's just a sort of distinction throughout how we talk about it that allows us to kind of keep track of what we're doing. But on the naturals, you've got these cymbals, which are actually your step components. So should we try putting some step components on the drums?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Let's do that. So if I go back to the instrument track, track ones are kick drum. So we can just hold shift. You'll notice that the LEDs dim. And that's saying, hey, I've not got anything recorded to me in terms of step components. So when you see it dimmed, you know it's not got anything recorded. So let's select maybe these two. And what we're going to do is we're going to put on a step component that plays them only every X number of times. So if I select this last one, that's trigger, and it will play the trigger, which would be the step, only every second time. So then we can set it to 2 or 3 or 4, and then that's the third or fourth or fifth time, so on and so forth. You could even set it to random. So that's where we start to get those randomizations, and on each one you can go a little bit random. So, but we'll set it to 2, so that sort of effectively extends our bar into 2 bars of sequencing, right? Because then you're starting to think, what do I want in bar 1, and what do I want in bar 2, or 3, or 4, and you can do that with step components as well. So, starting to get it there, right? So then I can even add in a kick drum, and maybe we have this kick drum going every 3rd time. Right, so then you start to get sort of polyrhythmic stuff, and it's pretty cool.
So nice with the screen telling me what's happening.
It's great.
I love
it's
it.
great, and it's really easy to kind of understand exactly what's going on, and that's, you know, it's a great user interface.
Yeah, that was the OPZ thing for me. They had all of this in, but then if I didn't hook up my phone, sometimes I'd leave it for too long and I'd forget what I was doing.
Yeah, exactly. But which, you know, I mean, I think the layout of the OPZ is fantastic, and it's, you know, once you really get under the hood and understand how it works, it's very easy to sort of pick it up and keep going. But certainly for some people, you just need that initial spike of like, okay, this is what's happening. And that's where the screen comes in really handy with XY. And
little touches like with the dimmed lights, and it's just all guiding me.
For sure.
Lovely.
I mean, we've put a lot of thought into the UI for this, so it's
so that's with
magical.
The naturals.
Yes.
And then the accidentals are normally just for numerical typing things.
Exactly. So when you want to
BPMs, things like that.
Yeah. So in this case, we've not implemented with BPM just yet.
Right.
But certainly for the step components, you know, selecting what you want, scenes, those sorts of things, that's where the accidentals come in really handy. But yeah, so now we've got some step components on the drums. We'll do a little bit more with that, maybe on the bass actually. Should we do that?
Yes, please.
So again, hold down shift, you'll see the lights dim. Let's pick some random steps. And then we'll go, maybe bend. So bend will alter the pitch of that note across time. Wow. So let's just press play and hear it. So. So I guess in this case we've got quite short notes, so it's probably not helping with the bend, but you kind of get the idea as you're programming basses and stuff. If you want to have those bent
just
notes,
a quick run through what, because you're the man.
Yeah.
What ones have we got on option?
So let me see what I can remember.
Oh, Maestro, sorry,
you just hold shift, you can see it. So
great.
I'll just put it onto this step. So you've got pulse, which repeats the step. So effectively, it'll just play that step 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and then go to the next step. So then that's also another way of extending your sequence. And you can add other step components as well and get really complex with that. Hold will hold the step for a certain number of steps. So if you want to have like a chord and just, you know, like sequence 16 chords, but just have them held, you know, a certain number of times, you can just do that and use the hold one. Multiply will divide the step, which is kind of funny because it's called multiply, but it's dividing, and so you get this nice divide symbol. So it'll divide it into multiple trigs, meaning that you can create ratchets, and I mean, you know, the sort of usual drum stuff that you need. Ratchets, playing multiple notes, you name it. That's multiply. Then we've got velocity, which will allow you to set the velocity on a particular step. Obviously, the keyboard is also velocity sensitive, so you can record velocity in, but if you want to fix that after the fact, that's how you can do it. Or if you don't want to use velocity but still have that precision, it's great for that. Ramp, that will use the scale that's been discovered by the brain, which we'll touch on a little bit later, and it will play the notes ascending through that scale in the steps that you've selected on the... It's pretty crazy. It's very...
Like little flourishes of
yeah, you never quite
scale
know exactly what you're going to get. It's kind of magical and crazy. Same thing with ramp down, except the other way around. So you select how many steps you want to go in that scale. And then random, same goes, but it's random this time. So again, using that scale, but picking random notes, which is really insane. I think there's a lot of that on the entropy track that we heard earlier. Portamento, that'll allow you to glide between notes. So as you're doing those sort of acid basses, I mean, we could try it on this if we wanted. So kind of go portamento, set that to 50%, and we can do a couple here and set that to do the maybe 60%. Yeah,
my man.
So you can just add those in super easy and fast. Tonality, this one's a fun one. So this deals with the sort of pitching of stuff, so you can quickly pitch things a fifth up, a third up, an octave up, transpose them, ignore chord progressions, dealing again with pitches. So it's another one of those really powerful step components. Jump, this one's pretty crazy. It'll just move to a future step or a previous step, and you can even set it to randomly move around the step sequencer, so really mess stuff up. So that's jump. Then these last three allow you to effectively only play a particular thing every number of times. So you've got parameter for parameter locks when you're recording automation, so you can say I only want that automation every third play, which is pretty nice. So again, extending your sequence a little bit. Likewise for component, so that will skip a step component. And then finally you get trigger, which will skip the note itself and only play it every X number of times. So that's all the stuff.
Well, thank you, mate.
Yeah.
Crikey O'Reilly. There's so much in here.
Yeah.
Can I ask about this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we've got something cooking now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as I understand, well, I have no idea what it is.
Press it. Let's do it.
I was just going to get... Yeah, well, should we get back to that view?
Yeah.
And you were saying about the 9 patterns and the scenes.
Yes.
Is this where we...
This is where you do it.
Okay, cool.
So going vertically, you've got your patterns. So here you'll see that we've done 2 drum patterns. Again, one for that kind of hard bass kick.
Oh, and that's how you swap it out?
Exactly. You just rotate...
Then a stacked
Bingo. You
nice.
got it. Easy peasy. So then if I just press play...
What a great idea. Almost making that continuous line and you're adjusting the line of the arrangement.
Exactly.
And that's the arrangement.
Bingo.
Yes!
Bingo. So it's really nice, really easy, I think, very user-friendly.
Yeah.
So, you know, and you can see on the screen, you get these nice little lines that show you, okay, there's something else going on here. And you can...
And they don't have to be adjacent.
No, I mean...
As well, that's what I love. So you see the tracks.
Yeah, and what's really nice is...
Why
again,
9? So we've got 8 and then a master, is there?
Yeah, so it's 9 patterns per track. So each track of the 16, so 8 instrument, 8 auxiliary.
Even more complexity than I thought.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
Yeah, wow.
So that's pretty cool.
And the what are the M's doing on here?
Yeah, so that's allowing you to create a new pattern, copy and paste a pattern, and also a preset.
Love that.
From one track to another, or even just duplicate.
Even things like explicitly give me a button with a label instead of like remembering a key combo. That gives me faith that I might learn it.
It's great.
Well, I don't have to learn it.
Exactly, you just look at it.
Yeah,
and then there's clear as well, which just wipes whatever you've got in there and gives you something fresh. So pretty nice.
So we've got the arrangement there. This bad boy.
This is mix. So here we see the beautiful grayscale. So again, this is color matched with the unit, and it looks great, and it's super beautiful. But
what are we seeing other than dope colors there?
Yeah, so this is your 8 instrument tracks at the moment, and I should have mentioned this with arrange as well. But if you press either the arrange or the mix buttons, you can switch between instrument and auxiliary. And that's where that colour comes back in, the red LED and the white LED, to allow you to immediately, without having to look at the screen, identify whether you're in an auxiliary track or instrument. So here you can mix instrument tracks, auxiliary tracks, and you can even solo them. So if you hold the keys, the track buttons down, you can solo them. And even whilst you're holding them down, adjust parameters for all of those at once. So really fast dialing in. And so here you get FX1 and 2 send, you get the pan, so that's FX1, FX2, pan, and then level.
Oh, so you've assigned them to the knobs, okay.
Yeah, easy.
I get it.
And then it becomes sort of like muscle memory, because you're just like in a live set, okay, I want to turn the drums down, boom, easy.
Wow.
And if you wanted to just straight up mute them, you can do that as well, so hold shift, mute them. There's even a shortcut if you're kind of jamming in instrument mode, just hold down instrument and mute those tracks. Easy.
Really? Have we got any EQ stuff?
Yeah, press 2.
Oh.
Boom, EQ.
Dope graphic.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites on the unit.
Yeah.
So here you get between 2 states, so clean on the bottom and then extreme on the top. And you can define what you want extreme to be, so you can, you know, have extreme high end and mid end,
Yeah.
And then you can have low end and some mids, or just low end. Let's try it out, shall we?
Beautiful, yeah. Oh.
Yeah, quite nice. Very performative. And then you skipped one.
Did I?
3.
Oh.
So do you want to try and figure out what it is?
Oh, you got distortion?
Yes, exactly.
Oh,
so
come on.
There's a master saturator. It's really nice. It gives you all the controls that you want from a saturator.
And when you say master, is that over everything?
Over everything, yeah.
Cool.
So it's sort of like an output stage saturator. So if we want to take what we've already got and add some distortion, we can get even crazier.
You are going after all the other boxes on this, aren't you? Like,
yeah, I mean,
because when I thought about building a little rig to do these things,
yeah,
you know, I see these boxes like the finishing boxes, and you've got everything so far.
Yeah, it's all in there, and I think it's not even so much that we're going after everyone. We just, as selfishly as musicians, this is what we wanted, you know, and finally we can do it. We've got the technology to do it. We've got the people to do it. We've got, you know, the capabilities to do it.
The power in it, the process, and we just take it for granted.
Yeah, I mean, it's
without a computer.
It's a dual CPU, so there's literally 2 CPUs in it.
Has that been a big jump up then?
Oh yeah, huge.
Under the hood.
Huge, and that makes a big difference because you can do a lot more with it.
Right, cool.
So
but I cut you off. So it's a gain clip.
Yeah,
you got
should
a
we hear
clipper.
it?
Yeah, come on, Matt. Levels are nicely in control. Oh, my G!
So yeah, it's a, you know.
That thing with the vertical stacking is freaking genius.
Pretty awesome. And very quick, as you saw. You know, you just go straight in, change it, done.
I love the parallel, the tone.
And then here we are, the master output. So here you can balance between percussion and melodic. So the device itself figures out, I mean, obviously, you're not going to put drums on a synth. I mean, you might, but in this case, it takes whatever drum tracks there are. In this case, the drum sampler routes it through percussion.
You don't even have to go through them and do the button.
And then melodic stuff through melodic. So any synth engine, any multi-sampler, any regular sampler, that will go through the melodic. So you can very quickly get those levels just right. And then there's this wonderful gluing compressor. So I think this will be quite nice with the...
Nice.
So yeah, so there you've got this gluing compressor. So at lower levels, it's your perfect pop compressor. You know, gentle, nice, light. As you bring it up, you start to get into Prodigy territory. You know, you can get really hard with that guy. And that in combination with the saturator, I mean, you can make some serious stuff. So that's one of my favorite features, just that.
Amazing. With the next bit, effects.
Yeah.
So you said we could send, can we look at, you said there were multiple, not just delay and reverb.
Yeah, let's have a look. So again, auxiliary tracks.
Yeah.
So we get 8 of those. We didn't quite make it to the end. So the last 2 are FX1 and FX2. And so that's where we can mess up our effects, we can automate them, so you can record a change on each step, you can parameter lock them, right? So then you could have the delay getting super short and then really long in the next step, and do all sorts of crazy stuff like that. But you get some really nice effects. So chorus, delay, distortion, lo-fi, phaser, and reverb. And that can be either of those on either of the 2 slots.
And do each have a different visual representation?
Yes, so for now, on launch, we've just got these very basic representations, but we're working on getting some slightly more distinct aesthetics for each of them in a future
And
update.
each one corresponds to the coloured knob.
Exactly.
Get it, I'm getting
And again,
it.
we'll have some slightly cooler looking graphics, I suspect, a bit later down the line.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, they're pretty much everything that you want and need, I think. The phaser in particular is pretty wicked. Let's see what we can send through that. So I'm just going to send maybe like the bass. Insane. Completely insane.
Oh, can I show off the one thing I learnt by mistake as well? When the effects are running, when you popped out, you can kill the effects with the stop button, can't you? Yeah. I didn't. Can
I do that? Go.
This is my one contribution to the video.
Silence.
Kill. I like it, and again, that's gives me faith that I'm going to learn it as a complete Luddite.
Yeah.
I touched them and I was, I did something well.
Boom, done.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and again, there's a lot of those small details where you'll just do something and it makes sense, which is
I'm
really
going to ask some
nice.
other, because I don't know, how long could it run on batteries?
Okay, so you get 16 hours continuously, but obviously, as many of our wonderful users know, with the OP1, the original OP1, it just keeps going. I mean, you don't even need to really charge it. It's ridiculous. And you know, I've been using mine for a few months, and honestly, the first time I got it, I didn't charge it for quite a few weeks, and I just kept going. Just keep making music again and again and again, and just pump stuff out. And in combination with those thousands of tracks, you can make a lot of music.
Connectivity, is there Bluetooth stuff in there?
Yeah, so obviously you've got that multi-out jack, you've got the amazing USB-C, there's also Bluetooth MIDI. So if you want to connect to those Bluetooth MIDI devices, just click a button.
And on the OP1, it's one of the things that differentiate it. It had that radio thing.
Yes, so on OPXY, we haven't put the radio. We decided the money was perhaps better spent on putting in the multi-out jack. Also, the keys are really special. They're mechanical, ultra low profile key switches, and they feel amazing. They're top of the line. I mean, really, when you feel it, you get a sense for how good this thing feels to play. And we wanted to differentiate the feeling between this guy and the OP1 Field. You know, that's got really nice soft keys, perfect for playing chords, and you know, it really feels like a keyboard. Whereas on this, you want to be able to just bat. That
addicting click.
Yes, you just want to keep sequencing.
Cool, cool.
So it's great for that.
One thing, I haven't got my head around the auxiliary tracks.
Yes.
Do you see them, is that mainly for just controlling other gear?
Yeah, I mean, it's a combination of things. So yes, controlling other gear, equally bringing other gear into the device, and also messing stuff up within the device. So one thing that
you've used them a few times, I've seen.
Yeah, we've not really played about with them much, but the punch-in effects are obviously, you know, it's one of those trademark teenage engineering things that we've got under lock and key.
Oh
now.
yeah, you're right. God, there's so much. So we've shown off the step components.
Yes.
And we showed a bit of the tape, but we haven't done punching effects.
Yeah, and we touched on them a little bit, kind of adding them in on the track level. But here you can control them in the punching effects track on everything. So then it separates it into drums on the left octave and melodic on the right octave. So then it'll automatically up. Can I say that?
Yes, you can.
It'll automatically up the drums on the left octave, and then it'll up the melodic tracks on the right octave.
And in time.
Of course, yeah, and also in key ups. So,
because you mentioned brain.
Yes, which we're gonna.
Can we talk about brain?
Should we do that first?
Yeah, I'm sorry, mate. I'm jumping around.
Yeah, it's all good. It's nice. I hope you guys are following.
Cool, yeah.
I know I'm following. I hope you're following.
Yeah, because you know it.
You're following.
You know.
Yeah. So here we are in the brain track, and this guy will pick up automatically the key and scale that you're playing stuff in. So as you record things in, it'll analyze that scale and it'll put it right there. And this can be used two ways, actually, because it'll automatically detect it. But if you're someone who's not inherently musical and you just want to find a scale, you can actually set it to manual and then select a different scale and find out how to play it. Because obviously you get that keyboard and you get the notes in that scale. And so for someone who's not particularly musical, I mean, I don't know all of my scales. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. But when I want to try something different, I just go into the brain, set it to manual, pick a random note, pick a random key, and then start composing in that.
Incredible.
And equally, if it automatically gets it wrong, or you play something that's slightly out and you want to keep that and have it be a little bit jazzy, but it messes up the scale as a result, you can set it to manual and overwrite that automatic detection. So really powerful in that regard. And then finally, you can link it with another track. So we did this awesome video. One of our lovely friends, Pontus, he made a track in 50 seconds on the OPXY. It's wicked, you should check it out if you haven't seen it. But he used the link function to play chords as well as transpose. So at the same time as transposing the stuff, he was playing the notes, and because those are linked to an instrument track, it was playing the chords on top as well. So then it becomes also a performance thing, which is pretty amazing. But I'm going to set the link to
and then linked with these melodic step components.
Yeah.
That were linked to the break, and I love that auto thing.
It's quite nuts.
Yeah, that's really good.
But let's try it out. So here we've got our. Do you know what? I'm going to make it a little bit less.
Unshackle yourself from my
wacky here. Let's have a look.
Sorry, mate. So, I went straight wacky with the old G-force thing. Sorry, mate.
No, the G-force thing's great. So let's turn this down, and then we'll go back into the brain. All right, we'll keep it as it is. And admit its lovely faults. And then what we're going to do is I'll show you how the brain works. So obviously on the musical keyboard, it's there, you can play it. But what happens when you play it is that it'll actually take the root note and transpose it down. So it'll go from F minor down to whatever key you select. So if I press play. Yeah, quite nuts.
But right, so I saw it. What was changed? It's just showing the mode change.
Yeah.
But you can't make a mistake.
No, exactly. That's exactly it.
That's wild.
Which is quite brilliant.
Yeah.
And the kind of
not just transposing the pitch, but
yeah, it's the relative
harmonization.
It's called the brain because it's intelligent, right? So it maintains the harmonic relationships. So if you were to just transpose down, which you can also do on the device in the project settings, you can transpose it down. But if you were to just do a straight transpose, then you lose those relationships.
It must be for like on a set.
Yeah.
Just being able to just go to a new place and not have any fear.
No, it's great.
Yeah, especially with as a guy that I play piano, sometimes I think I don't know how to weave harmony into this percussive stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And with all these, that's a great idea.
And you can also transpose the drums, which is kind of fun. So it will move the samples. Quite nuts.
Absolutely wild.
So I'm just going to try and figure out where this wackiness is going.
Yeah, that's Oz.
Let's have a look.
The spirit of Oz has been beamed in.
Let's start with something new and maybe use the brain to make it amazing.
Yeah,
Should we do that?
please.
So I'm just going to hold new in the project's screen. That'll give us a fresh project. Again, those lovely presets. Let's pick a different kit this time. So I'm going to go with Woodbox. This one's great. So again, we'll go with a sort of 4 on the floor, keep it simple. We'll turn off our metronome. I want to set it to 140, yeah, 140. It's got a nice fast kick drum. Let's get a different bass sound. Let's have a look. I want to pick a different engine. Let's go with something that we've not used. How about Wavetable? So we'll just record that in.
Cool.
And I want to get that on the G-force accelerometer. So we'll go into the LFO, element, G, turn her up, go for our synth, and then we'll set it to warp. Maybe we want something a bit more harsh, so let's bring that position over. Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Cool, so we've got a bass line going. Now let's add some stuff over that. So I'm just going to select track 4. I want to fix this guy up. So this is our E piano. Very nice, very gentle. So what we're going to do is we're going to record, let's go with a C here. So we'll go put a dotted rhythm on that. Nice. And then we've got dissolve again. I like this one, so I'm going to keep it as it is, I think. And then we'll go with maybe a G sharp on that one, and then we'll offset that dotted slightly. Nice. Now let's add something else. Complete that chord.
A hairdryer.
A hairdryer, yeah. So this one's called Hard Sync. And it's actually one of my favorite engines because it's just really nice. So it's like perfect EDM pads and plugs, you know. So maybe we can record that actually. So hold that chord down.
Oh man.
Put that on the nice, and then we'll get like a kind of beepy lead sound on it. So this one's FM strings. By default, it's kind of like a slow pad sound, but we're going to turn it into a lead. So we'll shorten that envelope, bring our filter back, and then portamento down. So this is our play settings. I'm going to set it to legato. Going to turn down our delay because I'm not loving that too much. Cool, and then let's mess about with it. Cool, so now let's go with a sort of why don't we move that across one? Get some more polyrhythmic feeling stuff going. That's better, isn't it, I think? So, we've got that recorded. It's very simple. It's a 1-bar loop. Nothing exciting.
Looks like magic to me, mate.
Right, but now this is where the brain comes in handy, I would say. It's correctly detected. I'm playing a G sharp major. And that means that I can now transpose it. So if I press play, quite literally bringing tears to your eyes.
Yeah. It's unbelievable.
It's quite sick.
And so handy for all those guys, because I've met a lot of guys and they go, oh, I don't know chords.
Yeah.
And they've been like, I've been over here knowing chords.
Just learn one chord, that's all you need. This does the rest.
Yeah.
You're good.
But it sounds so good.
Yeah. So here, let's record that. So I'm going to set the track scale to 4, because when I do chords, I like to have everything in one sequence. I don't want to have to be bouncing about.
Right.
But so we start with G sharp major, so we'll put that in. Now this is where kind of extending notes comes in. So if I hold a step, then press another step, that will be the length of that step. Easy. Not very hard to learn. So we want that, so we'll hold that actually for 2 bars, and then we'll go down to the D sharp.
Oh, I'm getting it.
Up to the F. Cool, so there we've got a whole track done. And then obviously we can start to automate those parameters, so let's get this going.
Yeah, parameter locking.
Accelerometer. Yes, okay, let's do some parameter locking as well. But I was gonna do this bad boy.
Cool.
So just let me set all of these guys up. We'll go G, we'll bring the amount up. Check, yes, that's good. What have we got here? We got a filter, yes, so let's turn this bad boy up with the envelope. 5, what have we got? Yes, yes. Filter again, I think. And we're going to do the other way around. Bring out our plucky stuff. And there we go, envelope. So then... Quite sick.
Yeah.
So we've got that set up. Now if we want to automate some parameters, maybe on the bass, let's do that. So it's as simple as pressing... and then you just hold down record whilst playing. So I'm just going to do that. Easy. And you'll notice that it's stepped, right? And that's where that shape control comes in from earlier.
Right.
So if I just press play, and I'm going to turn up that shape to let you hear the smoothing. And of course the screen shows you it too. So yeah, exactly.
And when it all went red as well, I was like, oh, that's great. Yeah, I know what's going on.
Exactly. And that's why we keep that red for recording, because it gives it significance in the interface. So you always know when you're recording something, be it a sample, some sort of sequence, whatever, red is for recording. So that's pretty awesome. But yeah, there we go. We've sequenced something, we've used the brain. Let's add some punching effects.
Yes.
Yes? Awesome.
Can I ask a question about the brain?
Sure.
Does it only work on MIDI things, or can it tell what key you're in from samples that are input into it?
It's a good question. It's all MIDI based. So effectively the notes that you put in, that's what it's detecting.
Gotcha.
So it's not doing any audio stuff, it's just MIDI. It'll look at the notes, figure it out, and then set it. But of course, because you can override that, if you know the scale and the key, you can just do it yourself. So
thanks, Oz. Good shout,
good
mate.
question.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's add some punch and effects, shall we?
Yarp. Screen is going off.
Insane.
That's what I bought the OPZ for originally.
Yes.
Was that feeling of like, oh, the magic button.
Yeah.
And then that's doing it in spades.
Yes.
Christ. So how many do we have on there?
So you get 24. And again, they're split into percussive and melodic.
And can you record those?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
I mean, if there's a track with a thing on it, typically.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that's the general rule. So
cool.
It's pretty awesome. You know, you can get that.
That really speaks to it being just a flagship product, right?
Absolutely.
Because on some of the on the KO, for example, right? I understand why they've omitted it, so it might be but on this, everything
it's all in
sink.
there. It's all where you want it. It's easy to get to.
On the OPZ originally, it had that link to the lighting, like DMX lighting control.
Sure.
Any of that?
So again, this is one
remnants?
of those things that we were like, okay, what do we want to focus the development time onto? Because we probably could have put that in, but then actually the user base of people that was using it was pretty small, and equally I think we did everything that we could do on that in the OPZ as good as we could do it, because we're quite a small company, right? And we didn't have the development time to make it any more exciting.
And that's why I was getting the buzz when you plugged it in with a monitor. I loved the visuals with the punching effects, and I had the same.
It's quite awesome.
Yeah.
And I've had a few people ask me like, I really want to just plug it in and have that on a screen,
Yeah.
And that would be sick, but I don't know if it's technically possible. But yeah, I mean, I think the graphics look fantastic, and especially the punching effects. I mean, just the aesthetic of it is so cool. When I first saw this, because we had sort of placeholders initially, and then we got these amazing graphics in, and wow, it blew my mind.
And multiple can be held down.
Oh, absolutely. So let's try that.
That
Insane.
is the joy.
Yeah.
That is the joy right there.
It's incredible. And you'll notice that some of them even are changed by the gyroscope and the pitch bend. So I haven't actually mentioned this as of yet, but on the bottom, you get a pressure sensitive pitch bend just there. So you can press it on the right side to go up and on the left side to go down. Yeah, it's really nice.
Can I feel it?
Absolutely.
Can I have a go on it?
Yeah, so if I give you a lead sound.
Thank you, mate. I didn't even notice that. It's so sleek on there.
Let's get a lead. And then maybe I'll change the range to go up.
I'm with you, mate.
7. Quite nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
And on the bottom, you showed me the bottom, we've got the Velcro on there.
Yeah, absolutely. So the kind of idea with this is twofold. So obviously you get these nice inverse Velcro loops in the box, and that allows you to stick them onto whatever and then attach the device to it. But equally, I think the plastic back with the soft Velcro allows you to sort of sit in bed and make music on your legs without feeling that kind of cold metal harsh feeling.
I thought your little cold legs.
Yeah, and that's something
Sweden.
that we thought of with the OP1, right? It's
Yeah.
got the same soft back, and I think sometimes you just want to pull it out and play wherever you are, and you don't want to feel like it. There's this cold thing on your leg, and that's where this.
Oh, mate, I love it.
It's great. It's great. So yeah, Velcro.
Will, do you feel that we've covered it?
No.
No. Is that because you've been instrumental right in the manual? What things? Is there anything that comes to mind now?
I mean, there's loads. We've not touched on players, sampling, multi-sampling. I mean, we could go on and on.
Well, I tell you what, I'm in for it.
Yeah.
But I need some food.
Yeah.
Because I drove up from Dorset this morning. So should we call like it's just the first video where we're gonna have a half time.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Let's do it.
On Sunday night at 7:15, just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water.
We're back from half time. Thank you so much for an incredible lunch, Tom. Oz running all the cameras, and Will hanging out with the human manual. Right, it is. I mean, it's such a gift. It's amazing. What haven't we covered? Can you remember after that dope lunch?
It's a good question. So let's have a look at the, MIDI track. We could look at the CV track as well, but maybe we don't have time. Kind of the same principle on both. So I reckon if we look at the MIDI, then that gets us in a good place. Look at some song mode, mute groups, that sort of good stuff.
Let's do it. Come on.
Yeah?
Come on.
Wicked. So here we've got a lovely setup. Jack, what have we got?
This is the stellar edition of the Microfreak.
Ooh.
Yeah, so with some. I love the. Suits me because it's got great presets.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
One and done.
But I don't know why we've got it here. You said to grab a keyboard. I like the sound of.
Yeah. So basically, as you may have noticed, we've got a few more cables plugged in. It's a little bit pulled together at the last minute.
Not full TE perfection, but that's our fault. Don't blame them.
Next time.
Yeah.
It works. So that's the important bit. So we've got USB connected to the, which one was it? Microfreak?
Microfreak,
There you go, to the Microfreak. And we've got audio coming out of it back into the OPXY. We've got our external track for audio set up with a bit of gain to push it up. And then got our MIDI channel set up. So now, if I play the keyboard on OPXY...
That's this bad boy.
Bingo.
Cool.
So, one thing that I think is kind of cool to show off, we've not really talked about them yet, but the players, we can do that whilst we're here. So, you may be wondering, what are players? Well, we kind of touched on it briefly earlier, but on the side here, this button is players. And what players means is it's not just an ARP. So when you hit players, it allows you to modify what you've recorded in the sequencer. Right. Interesting. And so that can be an arpeggio. You can hold things. So if you want to really quickly program chords and not have to worry about holding between the notes, you can do so. And then there's this fun one called Maestro. So I reckon we check out Maestro first. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I'm not sure what it's going to sound like, so it's exciting.
Yeah, first time, right?
Yeah.
So let me click that. This is Maestro. So what's Maestro? Well, you know, you want to create house chords, that's Maestro. You want to strum some chords, that's Maestro. Chords, that's Maestro. So if we hold Shift and then play some notes in, it'll record those notes into the Maestro. You'll see it buffer up there. And then if I play a note, it'll play that chord back. And then we can turn up this control here, which is called roll. So if we turn up the roll, it's almost like you're strumming it faster or slower. And you can get really slow with it. So if I turn it all the way up to 63, which is the top end.
Dope. Very fitting with the, because I have a little Arturia keyboard just for the strum function on that.
Yeah.
But that built-in is cool.
Done, easy, right? Yeah. And you can change how it moves, so it can go up, it can go down, it can go up and down.
Let's see some of those, is that all right?
Yeah, sure. So this is down. Up and down.
Cool.
Quite nice, actually. Yeah. And then random. You never quite know what you're going to get. And then you can also hold, so if you click the white encoder or rotate it as well, it will bring this little hand up, and then you can just keep those notes held down. So obviously this isn't a sustained patch, but if you had something sustained, it would sustain it. So pretty nice on-screen controls. And then holding Shift, pressing players again, we can pick a different one. So hold, I mean I can touch on it, but there's not really much to see since this isn't a sustained.
No, the arpeggio sounded interesting. You're saying that it can adjust stuff we've already recorded?
Yes, so the idea with players is because they apply after the sequencer, whatever you record in the sequencer, the player can then effect over, if that makes sense.
You can like intersperse pre-recorded material with a flurry of
sort of, so it's like
player.
You're intercepting those MIDI notes before they hit the engine or before they get output through external MIDI or whatever, right? You're intercepting those notes, like MIDI effects in Logic or Ableton,
Cool.
So think about it a bit like that. And so hold is just exactly what it says on the can. It holds the notes.
Nice.
And so here it's not a sustained patch, but you can hear that it's ringing out a bit longer because it's sustaining that. Then you can just turn it off if you want to stop holding. Pretty basic one there. And then arpeggio does what it says on the can again. So we've added something quite nice on the arpeggio here. So obviously you get the sort of first four controls, that's the speed, the movement of it, so up, down, up and down, etc, etc. And then you've got the octaves, and we've got this nice graphic that reflects how it moves as well, so that you can visually see that. A hold, just like in Maestro, you can hold those notes, great for just playing it and then letting it do its thing. Then if you hold Shift, it takes you to the sort of sub-menu of arpeggio. And then you get this sort of portamento between notes, or sorry, this is length of notes, and then this is portamento between notes. And and that will override whatever the portamento that you've got on the synth itself. So that's pretty cool. And if you're using CV, then it also sends it over CV, I believe. Try it out, find out.
Yeah.
But as far as I know, I think it should send both. And then you've got this one here, which is sort of like the pattern of arpeggiation. So you can scroll between different styles of playing those notes. So should we try a couple of those?
Yes, please.
I'm just going to put it on hold, and then we'll play hopefully a nice chord and go through them. So. Yeah, so there you go. All of the controls that you might want in an
I can't stress to the people out there. I'm sure Oz has captured it on the overhead, but the screen is a new world.
Yeah.
And even to have that, I would have guessed that there was a shift function, and I love that.
Yeah.
With the little arrow.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes, you know, I feel on these devices, there's so many shift things to learn.
Yeah.
And this is one of the first times that we've even encountered anything like that.
No,
on this
exactly,
device. Yeah.
exactly.
That's cool.
But we always try to make things obvious.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
you shouldn't have to read the manual. It's there. You should read it, but you don't have to.
Yeah, you should read it. You made it.
You should read it. No, but you know, you don't have to. You can reference it if you need to reference it, but you shouldn't have to feel that you have to buy a product, sit down and read the whole manual. We want people to just be able to pick it up and figure out how it works. And I think it really is one of those products that you can just figure it out, especially if you're coming from other boxes that we've made, and you know, there's a lot of familiarity.
There was a help function on the OP1.
Yeah.
Is there anything like that now?
No, but that's because we've kind of replaced that button with the projects button. So that you get to,
cool. Yeah, it's a good trade-off.
Yeah, I think so.
Right, so we've done players.
Yes.
Check out the players.
So here, again, as you've been hearing, the MIDI is sending to the Microfreak. So what we could do is actually add the Microfreak to our arrangement. We could do it as a lead synth. Let's try some stuff. What do you think?
Yeah.
Oh, we got some brain going on there. Okay, let's sequence what it wants.
AI.
So we're just going to add some chords. I've gone ahead and programmed that in. Let's hear what it sounds like. And now if we want to play about with it, it's coming in through the external audio track. So I can just play with the filter on that without having to touch the Microfreak. So let's hear that. So another thing that we could try out is to send it through the tape and see how messing stuff up through the tape could be fun.
Yes.
Let's try that. So I'm just going to, again, hold shift in the filter page. So that's M3.
You're sending it to the tape.
Exactly. Maybe we'll do 65%-ish. And then we'll go to the tape, make sure that our routing is set to nothing for everything else, and then we can mess stuff up. Let's have a look.
It's magic that when you go to that tape buffer, I see it.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
That's insane.
And you know, in real time.
And it changes
so you know
all
exactly.
Yeah, great.
Exactly.
Hey.
Not bad. So then, because players apply to any track that has a sequencer, you could even put it onto the tape, and you could arpeggiate the tape. So should we try that?
Yes. Mind blown consistently. What were you doing with the tapping on and off with that?
Yeah, so in the tape, effectively you get a few different controls. So those include the length of the loop that you're creating. Equally, you can change the speed of that loop. And so the one that I was playing about with was actually the fine grain speed. So you get this sort of crazy speed control on the dark grey knob. So just... And then it gets really extreme at higher settings. Here it sounds very beautiful and plucky, but you can get really extreme with some more dynamic stuff. And then, yeah, I was just playing with the kind of finer tape speed. And if you click it, it actually resets. It actually resets that sound.
Oh, right.
So then it brings it straight back to 100%. Wow. Pretty amazing. Yeah. So that's really cool. And as you saw there, we added an ARP, and that allows us to create those sort of granular sounds really quickly, really easily. You can, of course, filter the tape as well, but there I was actually playing with the filter on the external audio track so that the source is filtered rather than the destination.
That's so handy. Which
is pretty cool. And you can also send it to the effects, which was another thing that I did there. So sending it to the delay and the reverb, and then you get this amazing glitchy sound that's really nice.
Sorry, I know we covered it earlier, but
sure.
Just because when you wanted to say that's cooking, I hear it and I'm like, I want to mute things in and out.
Yeah, let's do it.
You showed it earlier in the mix a bit, but how would you do it when you're in the flow of it?
Yeah,
like
let's do it. So I mean, the way that I typically go, especially if I'm performing live or whatever else, is that you can just hold instrument or auxiliary to mute those tracks. So if I just go, maybe we want to build this up. So we'll start off with those nice kind of plucky bits and then slowly layer stuff in, right?
Sounds dope.
Slam it?
Yeah.
Let's slam it. Just lose everything. Okay, so we've got a great jam going, but how do we turn it into a song?
Yes.
Arrange mode.
That's where I fail every time.
Right, let's do it then.
Cool.
Yeah? So let's go into arrange mode. Let's create some scenes. So let's automate what we were just doing with the mutes. What do you think? Yeah?
Yes.
Sick.
I didn't even know this would be possible.
Let's start on scene 1. So you'll notice the little 1 on the screen. That means you're in scene 1. If you hold shift and press the accidentals, again, are sharps or black keys, those are the different scenes. And if you press the last one, that gets you this little prompt to type in, like dial up a phone number, what scene do you want? So you could go up to 99 with that. Whoa. But in this case, we'll set it to 1 to start with. And then we're just going to mute everything except for this guy, which is on the auxiliary track. So if you tap mix, you can then see the auxiliary track, and we could mute that if we wanted to, but I'm going to keep it on because I want to start that way. Then we move on to scene 2. In scene 2, we just want to have, I'm thinking we can just go with 7.
That's dope.
Nice. And then scene 3, let's go 7 and 6. Easy.
I get it.
Nice. And then we go to scene 4. Again, let's add in the next one. So we'll go with 5, 6, and 7. Nice. And then scene 5, let's bring it all in. And then I want to do one more, which is 6, and we bring in some extra drums. So let's program some other stuff in. So I'm going to get a snare drum. So firstly, let's copy and paste this drum pattern. So copy, paste. Duplicated it onto the same track. You could copy and paste between tracks, and that will copy both, as we said earlier, the preset. So in this case, you could copy the drums onto a synth track, synth onto the drum track, whatever you like. And that will maintain that preset as you switch patterns, which is pretty cool. But I'm just going to keep it all on one track, just to keep things easy. So now we'll go back into instrument mode and sequence. You can sequence whilst in arrange, but you know, just to keep things simple and allow everyone to keep track, we'll switch over to instrument. So I'm going to select a snare drum, hold it down, tap record again. That shows us just the recording for the snare drum, and then we're going to go something like this. And then a hi-hat, again, hold the hat down, tap record, then we'll just go like t, 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 t. And then maybe an open hat. And we'll go something like that, and maybe we want some percussion. Okay, so we've got the various sections of our song, and now let's turn it into a song. So hold Shift, press Arrange, that takes us to song mode. And then we can start to arrange those scenes into songs. So what I'll do is I'll start by clearing all. By default, it'll assume that you want to start with 1. But if you're someone who wants to start with 5 and then make their way slowly to 1, just clear it or delete it. So now it's like dialing up a phone number again. You just type the buttons you want to type. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Easy. And then you just hit play. Not bad.
Oh, wow.
So that's all it takes to make a track.
It's so, because out of demoing so many products for so long, this is all the things I wanted to do in one thing.
Yeah, yeah.
He's beaming like a Cheshire Cat over there, aren't you? Yeah, this is the one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. So I think from like a personal perspective, I've been waiting a long time for a product like this, and it's here.
Yeah,
so
and I can understand people might think that's hype, but then when you combine the fact with all the effects, the fact we've got no computer here, that's what I feel like has been. Everyone's like knows we can do it on a laptop, but there hasn't been like a convergence device for all of it.
No, and I think it's also like, as you say, it takes a lot of great things from a lot of great places, but equally I think just as a musician, having something that you can throw in your backpack, go on a trip.
You don't need a separate MIDI controller.
You don't have to worry about any of that.
Even little things like it being velocity sensitive. Yeah. There'd always be one little trade-off here and there for me. I'd be like,
but, I mean, to me, at least, I mean, there may be certain people with certain workflows who want something very specific that it doesn't have. But to me, it has everything that I would ever need, you know. And you can just rock up at a studio and sync with everything. You can MIDI to everything. You can record everything, send to everything. It's like all there.
And full disclosure to you guys that I own a original OP1, an OPZ, a KO2, and about 4 pocket operators. And when I look at this, I think I could, because check out the price. We've got the links below and all the description. But I'm thinking, well, I'll sell those and get this. Because I bought a lot of those to do. I had the OP1, so I bought the OPZ to just program a 4 on the floor. For sure. Because that's one of the shortcomings of the original OP1. Yeah. And I think when you see it like that, all the different bits of the device, very cool.
I think it fills a lot of gaps for a lot of different musicians.
Anything else we missed in that manual?
Oof, sampling.
Come on!
Yeah, but I can show you rather than setting something else up and maybe.
Has it got a microphone in it?
Yeah, it's got a built-in mic just there.
Oz. Well, I looked at you, Oz, because Oz is really good to be sampled as well.
Oh yeah, you want to come round and have a sample?
Well, we need like a hook, don't we? A vocal hook.
That's true.
What if I just scream?
Yes. Well, from there, should we see how it does? Well, yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to take us to instrument. We're going to select.
This is how Oz feels about editing videos.
We're going to select track 8. Now you get.
Okay.
We've got 3 different samplers that we can pick from. So there's a standard one-shot sampler, just like on the OP1, you get a sound, sample it in, chromatically transposes it. There's a multi-sampler which fills down, so that's great if you want to record a piano or just pretty much anything. You know that cinematic composers and people that are into really lush sounds, they love multi-samplers, and it's got 24 zones, fills down, loads.
So when I play a different velocity, it'll play a different sample?
So it's more so about the pitch than the velocity.
Oh, okay, so each key has a different...
Exactly,
Sorry.
exactly. But that's fine.
I should know by now. I've been this long.
That's all good. I mean, I think with the velocity thing, it's something that maybe, I don't know if it's technically possible, but currently we haven't implemented it. But, it gives you that full range keyboard, so that's great. And then the third one is the drum sampler. So that gets you 24 one-shot zones across the 24-key keyboard. So great for loading in all of those drum sounds like that.
Sweet.
And another cool thing about the multi-sampler and the drum sampler, because they've got 24 zones, as I mentioned earlier, you can put vocals and various other chops in there and arrange those out, and the preset per pattern allows you to move between those, and I think that's a really cool feature. I'm looking forward to seeing some people use that, so get on it, people.
Yeah, sweet. We need to sample our Oz over there.
Yeah, let's do it. So I'm going to go into the one-shot sampler, so Shift and M1 to select our engine, and we're just going to scroll over to sampler. And there we go, we've got a blank sampler. Now, Oz, do you want to come round and get sampled?
From there.
Sure, I can.
Right, can you get a C for us?
What?
Right, let's try it.
Something weird. I'm going to make a text shift. You can make something cool from it.
Oh, yeah. You're very
go.
textural.
Absolutely.
You ready?
Yes.
3, 2, 1.
If that isn't a saxophone, I don't know what is.
A lot of information in that waveform.
Yeah. So, we've got Oz in the OPXY now, so let's hear him.
You do sound like a sax.
Yes!
Yeah. Sick. So let's change it to poly and see what he sounds like as a sax chord.
Sick.
Do you know what? I don't think it's half bad.
No.
I am lo-fi vibes.
He's
Yeah,
the best
man.
guy to do synth videos in the world.
It's pretty wicked.
Yeah.
Right, so let's add some envelope to it.
Can you brain Oz as well?
Of course you can brain Oz. So should we just...
Oh yeah, I realise that's might be, for the American audience, that's not the euphemism.
So we'll...
Sick.
He's de-brained himself, hang on. Oh no! Alright, let's set it to a G sharp. That's what the brain's on.
I mean, that's what I'm saying, music is fun sometimes, isn't it? Is he in there?
Yeah, he's going to be in a sec.
Okay.
So I'm going to jump it forward in the song. Over to 6. Maybe he's getting a bit lost there. Let's jump it back to 1 and put it in.
Oh, mate, if you tell me what key, I can play him, just lead over it, and I can tell you how these keys
that's
feel.
not a bad idea.
Yeah, what key are we
Let's
in?
do that.
That's all I've got. Oh, you've got it. Yeah, crank him up, crank him up. No, you... Hey, yo! I'm that guy. I'm that guy.
a Hans Zimmer instrument.
Mate, you're cinematic. I won't let anyone tell you ain't nothing but cinematic.
It's quite sick. It's very EDM, isn't it?
Come on, mate.
Do you know what? I was thinking like properly EDM banger there.
That's fun.
Oz on the beat.
I mean, this is fun. And we haven't had to plug that much stuff in.
No.
Well, nothing in. We just plugged that in. And thanks, by the way, I'm that guy. But that's great fun over here, just with these two
sick.
knobs. Wow!
Yeah.
And the fact I played some. We had a product last week. It won't be named, but like the internal headroom just sucked, and it just would frickin' fart all the time.
Yeah.
You've been really pushing it with the levels, and I swear we haven't set any of this stuff up, and it's quite amazing how it's just taken everything you've thrown at it.
Yeah, it just
even
goes for
Oz's
it.
baritone sax voice.
And yeah.
Amazing song mode. I'm pushing it one step further.
Sure.
Is there a way to like capture the whole performance?
No, so not currently. But the way to do it, I would say, I mean, obviously you get the audio out, the main out, which sounds great. But equally over USB, you can just plug it into your computer, go straight into the DAW 2 channel.
Perfect.
Record the master out. Easy.
Yeah.
But then of course...
Or you got that little hard disk recorder, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly, the TP7.
Yeah.
So you could plug it straight into that, or any other portable recorder. You know, we don't discriminate, so do whatever works for you.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
8 gigs of sample memory as well. That kind of turned me on at the beginning. Anything else?
Oh man, so arpeggiators per track, or rather players per track, so you could have all 16 tracks going crazy. You can automate the effects, so we could try that.
Yes,
See what that
please,
sounds like. Amazing. Well, there you have it. OPXY.
I can't believe you've covered so much ground.
Most. We won't get into the settings.
But if you miss anything, go read the manual.
Yeah, it's all in there.
Tom, thanks so much for bringing it along.
Pleasure.
And he's smart. This is the real dealio, isn't it?
Yep, certainly is.
Are these available to buy yet?
Yes, they are.
Cool. Check on the links below for the price, but most importantly, in Andertons, like for a lot of this, you've got to touch it and play with it. There's 2 ways. You can come to the store. We're about half an hour outside of London. It's really easy to get to. You can even fly in and be within half an hour if you fancy it. But also, we do a return policy as well. So if you're not sure, we'll send it to you, and we've got a money back return policy.
It's worth the trip.
Oh, mate, been a real pleasure meeting you, and thanks so much. It's the most in-depth video we've ever done, and Oz, thanks for keeping everything going. And if you wouldn't mind playing us out.
Yeah, let's do it.
And I'm going to leave you, mate. Amazing.
Thank you for having me.
Ooh, boy.